strength are you with me feeling?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Adrian's Dintrik, CMT Charter Market Technician, Crypto Burp, and we are here to another incredible session throughout the day as we go and celebrate and extend our invitation for you to participate in our annual virtual trade summit for traders, for people who actually want to hold a stake in this industry, in Web 2 and Web 3, people who are traditional and want to go tokenized. They want people that know the kind of like a traditional type of finance, the banking sector, that they are used to holding money in their own kind of like backpack, socks, and bank accounts, but they want to go somewhere else. They want to just be somewhere deeper with the right people. So it's about basically making money. It's about just doubling down on the knowledge on how to diversify, on how to become better, and how to make more rational, information-based decisions, and how to be wiser in investing, and also on other different associated activities such as the legal side, right? Because the legal side of the investment is so much often underappreciated, and we always come to the conclusion, I think, as the majority of the people, that we do not know what's really happening on the legal side, and only after we have made a lot of money in crypto, there is no way to legalize that, for instance, because the countries do not provide enough of an infrastructure. So we're gonna basically discuss this critical and burning topic today regarding the MiCA regulations that are known as markets and crypto assets. And I'm here joined by our incredible experts for today, my true good friends. And we're talking about Aleksandra Jagielska and Tomasz Wiącek, who is actually, who are incredible professionals in a space, who have been, like I said, just know the space inside out from many different perspectives, have helped a lot of people basically not only save big money from just basically not falling victim of the monstrous infrastructures in the countries that often want to squeeze as much money as they can from the industry that they do not know. And here we are to talk about the MiCA and how it's all going to revolutionize basically the crypto industry over the next months. Aleksandra and Tomasz, welcome to the show. How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Adrian. It's very nice. And firstly, we would like to thank you very much for the invitation once more, because last year we also had the pleasure to join you here. So, of course, thank you. We are very happy that we can be here with you and share our knowledge and experience, which is, I think, the most valuable thing that we can share today. And of course, it is very nice to hear so nice words from you, as always. So good that I have a makeup, so I'm not so, blushing. However, yes, we're very happy to be here with you. It's a very critical moment, as you said, so we're very, very pleased to share our knowledge and experience with you. Today, we're here as part of 3dots. So some of you might know us, some not, maybe not today, but we're a law firm and a legal regulatory company, which is advising mostly blockchain-related projects. So we have some knowledge when it comes to Web3 space. And here today I am joined with Tomasz. Tomasz is actually will be the star of this conversation, I'm sure, because he's actually the leader of crypto assets regulation team in our office. So basically, I'm just an addition today.
Thank you so much, Aleksandra, for this kind introduction. Yeah, we're super excited to be here, and hopefully we'll be able to share a lot of valuable info with everyone.
All right, I'm pumped myself because, of course, everybody who's in a space who holds to, like I said, who wants to hold a stake, regardless if they are project, they are founders, if they are builders, if they are just, like I said, traders, investors, it's all gonna be, I think, applicable. And everybody's case basically to follow the MiCA regulations right there. So speaking of which, let's kick off with basically opening what it is. What's the purpose? What's the objectives? Why is it coming to the space right now?
Tomasz, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So what is aim of MiCA? It is part of like broader regulatory framework introduced by the EU some years ago already. So it's not a very new thing. Like we've been preparing for it for years now, I could say. And in general, MiCA regulation is aimed at regulating issuance of some of crypto assets, not all of them, which is important too, but also provision of crypto asset services. So exchanges, provision of custody, but also services such as advice in crypto assets. So the aim of MiCA is stated as protecting investors, especially retail investors, so consumers, in other words, and it is set to establish a regulatory framework within the EU. However, it will also influence global crypto asset markets because its regulation touches not only the European firms, but also all the firms that try to reach European audience, European clients. So yeah, this is quite an extensive influence, I may say, quite ambitious goals of the EU legislator. And we are just about to see how it will turn out, because on 30th December, MiCA comes fully into force.
30th December or 31st, you said?
30th, yeah.
Exactly.
But
All right, so it's
basically
Go
what
ahead.
we'd like to underline to the audience is that MiCA is very important when it comes to regulation concerning crypto assets. But as professionals, we sometimes say that MiCA is just like, small part of the regulations towards the crypto assets that are coming into force. So please don't forget that MiCA is not the only regulation that will be concerning and influencing the crypto market, industry in the upcoming months, let's say, because there are many regulations that will be coming into force. So we would like you to understand that there are many other things, like for example TFR, like for example DORA, DLT pilot regime, and so on, that are concerning the market itself. So MiCA is just like the small part. So it will allow you to mitigate some risk, to foster innovation, to protect the consumers, as Tomasz said, and probably harmonize the EU market towards the crypto assets, but it's not the only one. And for crypto asset market users or participants, I think it's not even the most important ones, because we will, I think, concern this topic a little bit later. But I must say that most of you will be interested in this AML and KYC regulations that will be attached to it. So basically, please remember that this is not the only regulation concerning crypto assets.
Exactly.
Right on. And for everybody who's watching and viewing that right now, they might be asking a lot of questions in the mind. Actually, feel free and feel encouraged to drop them in the comments, right? Because we're gonna have and try to answer, like I said, literally the best lawyers, well, arguably the best Web3 lawyers in the world right now, to my opinion. In my opinion, to answer and tackle all those questions. And full disclosure for mine as well, I'm sort of like affiliated with 3dots. We work together. We have worked together for many years, and I couldn't be more grateful and more excited, for them to share the knowledge today. And like I said, privately, my experience, they're the best Web3 lawyers in the world. There's no better choice. So they're gonna give you a lot of reasons to claim this and claim so throughout the show. So drop your questions. Feel free to come them in, and we're gonna try to tackle them one by one. And speaking of those regulations, because you say there's a MiCA is this potato, it doesn't matter. It's just a brief scope of the big kind of like a big change. All right, on the regulatory side. Speaking of the change, like what's different? What's going to change exactly? Like how's the change going to look?
Yeah. So as we mentioned, many different types of crypto assets will be regulated when it comes to their issuance. So the issuance that nowadays is not regulated within Europe. Let's say that you have a company in Estonia or in Lithuania or whatever country. In most of them, issuance itself of tokens that are not securities is not regulated. After MiCA comes into force, there will be certain obligations for issuers of crypto assets, even so-called utility tokens, and they will be regulated in doing so. The obligations will be mostly preparation of white paper, but it will be quite different than what we know as white papers in crypto space right now. There will be more of like security prospectus documents required by MiCA, and certainly professional advice here would be of great help to different projects when it comes to fulfilling these requirements. What else? I believe that for end users, there will be KYCs will be much more popular as CASP, so crypto asset service providers. All of them will be required by MiCA to just conduct the KYC for each and every of the customers. So if you will want advice on crypto assets, or will want your crypto assets to be transferred by a third-party provider like payment service, or well, for exchanges it is so already, but for many different crypto asset services you will have to go through KYC. Well, we could interesting things maybe. It is also part of the regulatory framework for crypto assets right now in the EU, so-called DLT pilot regime. And what is very, very interesting, that it allows for creating of security exchanges, but crypto asset securities. So the security tokens, fully regulated exchanges, centralized exchanges for securities. And it is indeed, the EU is pioneer within the world, introducing like direct regulatory framework for the security tokens, which brings about legal certainty, protection for and customers, and so on. And it's quite an interesting topic, and we know of some entities that already work within this framework, already have a license under a DLT pilot regime. So these are some. This is a little bit of the change that comes about. Maybe
All right.
Alexander would like to add something here.
Yeah, but from practice, it's not like MiCA is basically resolving all of the problems, because, you know, working with Web3 projects on a daily basis, we see what challenges they're basically facing, and like having in mind what provisions in MiCA are actually included, we can see that it could be difficult to basically adjust the projects to the requirements, to actually properly classify the assets that are being issued by the entities, because as we all know, the tokens can, like, you know, one day the token can be one thing, the other day the whole classification or the whole functionality side can be changed, right? It is very dynamic, it is very, very fluent. The other thing is that, of course, MiCA shall unify the whole market. However, we will have the local authorities that would be responsible for enforcing this regulation. And here it might be a little bit challenging because, you know, previously in Europe, we had some jurisdictions that were so-called more friendly Web3 jurisdictions, considered more friendly jurisdictions than the others, right? So we know, probably all of us here gathered know that it was Estonia, as Tomasz mentioned, it was Malta, because they already had their own framework and their own authority is basically very fluent when it comes to Web3 project. So basically, the challenges that we're here facing is also to have authorities and like people that actually would like to be involved in the more, let's say, more technical part of the project, because still it will be very, very important thing when it comes to understanding of what the web project really is about. So still, what it change, we will see in practice how the change will be, you know, evolving when it comes to the practice itself, because, you know, now we have regulations, we see that the provisions are like, you know, being established, we can see them on paper, but from our understanding, from our experience, we know that the practice might differ. So basically, it changes a lot on paper for now. We will see how many things it will change in practice.
All right. So imagine I start a crypto project, right? Or imagine I start a crypto exchange, and anybody else can imagine this the same for themselves, right? And what if we get a license, for an MiCA or MiCA, but then it's actually going to backfire because those all those paper, just like you mentioned, the paperworks are not going to check out pretty well in the reality, right? Because for instance, there's going to be a lot of discrepancy between what's expected, what's required, and in the future it may actually resolve that it's impossible to meet those requirements because of like flawed descriptions, flawed definitions, and it's just there's lack of compatibility between the real world and the actual requirements that are impossible to meet. So I could imagine there is a situation where potentially as an exchange, I could get licensed in the MiCA terms, and at the same time I would get punished for for being the first of its kind, for instance, right? Even though I'm licensed, I get punished because I'm the first, and they are kind of like learning on my mistakes, right? And they kind of like I'm becoming uh, this guinea pig, right? Is that what we call that? Is this guinea pig, the testing experiment, kind of like an object subject for them to figure out, okay, these guys, say that it's impossible, but we're gonna give them a fine because they're not compatible with what we require. But actually, we're gonna change it later, and nobody else from now on has to apply for it, right? So, how is that gonna work? Is there gonna be like a proper, what do you call it, like a proper duration time, special period of like a flexibility that that those projects are going to have to apply, and they're going to be like communicating quite often with the regulators, or it's just going to be like just yes or no, black or white type of a situation?
So basically, Adrian, is like very important topic that you're actually mentioned, and it's I think it's quite similar to what I just said. So basically, of course, we are at the new era, let's say, and we are at the new field. So we do not have any official books, commentaries, and so on that would be broadly discussing the topic that would explain officially what for example, the actual precise clause mean, the definition, what it means, what stays behind it. So it should be worked out, okay? So in practice, the practice will show us how it will be treated, how it will be understood, and so on. And this practice actually will be done by the market itself. So for us as lawyers, by the authorities itself, which, as I said, might have different attitudes, may have different approach, might have different experiences. So it might be quite challenging in the long term. However, it's like, with all the new things, we have to adjust. So it will be pretty important to work closely, both with lawyers and both with the authorities, just to, keep up everything in the middle with reasonable measures, basically. So I think that this conversation, this dialogue between the authorities, the lawyers, and the entities in the space would be very, very important, because we have to find some solution just to be clear that we can still provide the services in a safe manner, but still in a reasonable way that is being included in the provision itself of the regulations.
What does it look like from your perspective, Tomasz?
Your question is, yeah, it's very important, and I believe that a lot hangs on the regulator themselves. So it is very important to choose proper jurisdiction, I would say. We all have our favorites, but I believe that it is very important to choose a jurisdiction within the EU where a regulator is experienced, and there are some jurisdictions like this. So they are starting to apply MiCA already. Some of them are issuing already MiCA licensing. So this is important as well, that this process is already started, and it is way better to be regulated. So it's like a relationship, yeah. If you are a regulated entity, you have a ongoing relationship with the regulator, because they can check on everything really that you do. They can check on your spendings, management board, and a lot of different stuff. And it's a relationship with the actual people that work there. And if they are open to innovation, and if they have the suitable knowledge, I believe that they will be okay to not even, let's say, issue a warning if you do something wrong, but have this dialogue. So a lot depends on the jurisdiction, and here is an important thing that I may add to the whole MiCA framework. If you fulfill your regulatory obligations in one jurisdiction, you can operate within whole EU. This is under some conditions. So when you, let's say, you apply for license in Spain, let's say, you just have to mention to the regulator that you would like to provide services to all of other EU jurisdictions, and you are free to do so as a crypto asset service provider. So choosing jurisdiction wisely is important, and operating from one jurisdiction doesn't stop you from rendering services to all the others.
Okay, I got you. Like, how does it look from the taxation perspective? What about the taxes? Like, what's changing for the taxes?
Actually, I believe this is the favorite topic of everybody right now. So just to be clear, MiCA is not a tax regulation, right? So it does not implicate that there will be significant changes within the tax framework. Of course, everybody, like each EU member state, has their own framework when it comes to taxes, and this will not change. However, we might see that, for example, when it comes to Poland, it might bring some, let's say, positive changes when it comes to the tax framework. Because, for example, right now we are discussing things for example, in favor of the crypto asset service providers, which might result in this exemption that, for example, the financial institutions are under now. So basically, it might be a good change for the crypto asset service providers. Of course, for the market itself, it's like not, let's say, direct influence, but indirect that, as Thomas said, we will have vast KYC and AML procedures. So the information gathered by the crypto asset service providers on the users will be very broad about the transactions that they're performing and so on. So these informations would be, much broadly executed by the authorities. They will know about it. They will have better access to it, probably. So for like regular users, it means that their transactions in Web3 space would be very much more visible than it were up to this point, right? So basically, this is like, consequence for the regular users. Of course, when it comes to Poland also, it is foreseen that probably we will introduce the so-called definition of virtual assets that was known previously by us in AML regulations to the tax regulations, which might cause some difficulties actually, because in MiCA we have like other definition of crypto assets. So it might be confusing in a practice, but as said, we will see what the future will brings and what the practice will brings, because this would be mostly challenge for us lawyers and the regulators and authorities that will be actually executing and enforcing the law.
So not only a challenge to the people themselves, but also to the lawyers, right? Which is interesting because,
Always.
yeah, of course. As a matter of fact, the way I'm trying to picture and visualize that how it may actually work in the coming months is that for the communication, just like Tomasz mentioned, right? For the communication, there has to be both parts that actually know the language, that know the glossary, the definitions, that just somehow hold this taken in the street, knowing basically what it is and what is what and what it and why things work. So what I'm thinking is, on one hand, we're gonna have issued all those regulations, right? All those new package of regulations that are going to come into actions. They're gonna just like you guys mentioned, it's gonna act within the European Union and also outside of the European Union for everybody who's basically holding or wanting to hold any stake inside of the European Union. So targeting the B2C, the B2B people of the Europe right here. And I could imagine a situation where, for instance, let's bring back the example imagine I'm an exchange, right? That is just getting started, the security exchange, that actually asks questions to the regulators, and there is no one to answer this question because there is no one to guide them through it, right? Or that there is no quote unquote elites, those crypto elites, the people who understand crypto, the blockchain experts, right? Because most of the time when you speak with the traditional people, that's how it also had worked with me before I actually discovered 3dots, for everybody's understanding, right? By the way, I'm not paid to say this. I really genuinely mean it, right? That they are the best of the best. And I had met a lot of lawyers, that they call themselves like blockchain experts. They had a blockchain expert next to the name, and when I asked the questions, they just didn't understand my language. They didn't understand what I was talking about. And as a result, I'm afraid like that as an exchange, I could imagine a situation that I go and in the light of being punished or fined, with big fines for not following the regular regulations or requirements that are not clear. When I ask the question to the regulators, they're not really able to answer me because there's no one literally knowing what it means, right? And I could imagine a situation like that where we ask the questions, no one answers, and they punish us for basically not sticking with the regulations even though there's no one to communicate, right? So is there any like is this anyhow accurate, or are there actually tens of thousands of people that are finishing some blockchain academia and they're going to go straightforward to the best regulatory people? They're going to be the best elites, the best professionals, the best experts, blockchain related. And like, what's the reality?
So basically, I can say the favorite saying of lawyers, it depends. However, I will not do this today. If there will be no doubt, there will be no lawyers for sure. But from experience, I can tell you that basically being a lawyer in a Web3 space, and not only a lawyer but a good advisor to the projects, as you yourself you're saying that it's very uncertain, field. So you have to be a little bit more than a lawyer. You have to want to understand what the project is doing, what it is about, how it functions, how the mechanics are formulated, and so on, because it's very complex. And we even see that every time when we're like having initial meetings with the clients, we want to know like very much details of the project itself, how it works, how it consists of, what it consists of, basically how the smart contracts are working, what they're basically doing, who is doing this, who has to deploy the smart contract, what functions are included in the smart contracts. Because if I'm not correctly understanding the project on the technical level, then I cannot properly advise you because I don't know what is basically happening. Because Web3 is like when we're using it, it's a very like basically very good solution for many things. However, in practice, when it comes to this technical level, it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to the source code and so on. So sometimes even if when the clients are approaching us, we're just looking through with them through the code, and we're trying to see what it's actually doing. So this is very, very important thing to be a good advisor, be more involved, not only from like books side of story and so on, but also from the technical point of view, because this is very, very important to advise in a good way. And of course, as lawyers, this is our daily bread, basically, to try to interpret what it means, what like different provisions mean, and so on. However, without this practical knowledge from the technical point of view and so on, we cannot interpret it in a good way, I believe.
So here's a question to Tomasz, for instance, right? Just on top of what you mentioned, Allah, is knowing that we all gonna have to comply one way or another, right? Being institutional people or the regular customers, just like you mentioned. What can we actually do? What are the steps to ensure the compliance? Like, what do people have to pay attention to? Like, are there any websites to log in for monitoring? Are there any resources, any questionnaires that we have to fill in, or what exact steps do we have to make just do to ensure that we are compliant?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. Just let me add something to what Alexandra said. Yeah, it all depends on the people that you like. Let's say have a dialogue with, cooperate with, and I have an example from here from Poland. We have our financial supervisory authority, which is not known for its for being fluent in crypto in general, but there are good signs, I can say. We obviously know some people within the regulator, and I myself know of one of their employees that has been there for not very long, but he has had his own crypto projects before he was hired there. So he has in-depth knowledge, and they are aware of their, how to say, of need for such professionals. They are hiring them. Obviously, they are not. They are under a budget, right? Obviously, there isn't many good specialists in this space. So these are all challenges for the whole market, but there are good signs, I can say. at least as from what we can judge, from what we know. And asking your question, like the most simple answer is find a good advisor. I don't want to say a lawyer because you need a bit more than a lawyer, as Alexandra said. But yeah, it really is the best way, I believe, because it's for regular entrepreneurs, at least in Poland, it's very hard to track all the regulations, right? On taxes, on I don't know, on privacy and whistleblowers and whatever. There is just tons of the regulations, and lawyers and advisors, they are professionals who are paid to track all of to keep track of all of this. So it's a good thing to have a relationship with a good advisor. If you want to do it for yourself, get into subscribe a lot of good content on LinkedIn, different blogs on the web. Watch YouTube videos from people who talk about such things. So you obviously can educate yourself, but if you are going to treat your crypto business seriously, I believe that even at this entry level, it is important to have a lawyer, to have an advisor who will guide you through this.
That's correct. And I even know the name. The name is 3dots, and I cannot recommend it enough. And like I said, even though I'm not paid to say that, I genuinely care for everybody to familiarize themselves. Go ahead, check the websites, check their profiles. They're incredible professionals. And I wish many other people in the world actually just had this, right? Because with good lawyers, crypto is safe. With bad lawyers, crypto is not safe. With good lawyers, I think we're actually all going to make it. So it actually makes sense. And as we kind of like have already crossed 30 minutes of into the show, let's leave a couple of questions perhaps to the audience. And would you be okay just answering a couple of those?
Sure,
Yeah.
no worries. We can start. I actually think that there are plenty of them, so we can just
Right on. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna highlight. I'm gonna highlight basically a couple of them one after another, and let's try to make it a brief, kind of like a brief answers, brief questions, brief answers type of series to just get as many as possible. And if we are ready, then here's one kicking it off. How MiCA changes and impacts the stablecoins.
Yeah, so this is like a very, very good question, actually, because stablecoins are one of the main topic now. So basically, it makes everything more secure, right? Because there will be some requirements that the issuers of the stablecoins would have to apply to their, daily basis operations. So for people that are actually interested in, like, investing or trading with stablecoins, or just basically doing normal transactions with them, it would be safer if somebody is the issuer of this regulated stablecoins that is accepted in the EU, because it would be subject to like very fast requirements that will be, let's say, hard to fulfill for sure for some, but it would make the market pretty much very secure when it comes to the stablecoins issued in a right manner accordingly to MiCA.
All right. So here's another one. How the recent legislative developments, such as the use markets in crypto assets, basically MiCA regulation, impact on-ramp and off-ramp services?
Yeah, so I can tackle that one. So MiCA regulates different crypto asset services, and one of them is exchange. So not like a centralized or decentralized exchange, because this is called trading platform, but service of exchange between crypto assets and crypto to fiat as well. So what does it change? It will, all of the providers of such services will be regulated, will have to conduct KYC, which is not a big novelty actually in Europe, because we used to have these regulations on VASP regime. However, what will it change? I believe if there are off-ramp service providers right now, obviously there are. I mean, those who are operating now and are doing well, they will be able to get a MiCA license, and I believe that actually it will help them to grow their operations within Europe and outside of it, because they will be just like they are regulated in one EU country, they can operate within whole the EU market in all of the jurisdictions. And yeah, I believe actually MiCA will help such providers, and we may see a of growing popularity of some of such service providers from the EU.
All right. So how about the crypto projects? Basically, what should crypto projects start doing now to ensure they're MiCA compatible before it fully comes into effect, basically in 3 weeks?
It's a very, very good question, actually. So I can connect it with what you're asking also about, Adrian. So basically, now we're more or less in a transitional period. Of course, MiCA will come into force, and it will be applicable in months, let's say, fully. However, what we would like to underline is that MiCA actually foresees that different EU member states can apply the so-called grandfathering period in their own discretion. That would allow the entities to be active on the old regime, old regulations on the basis of it. So basically, in some countries, the VASPs, so the old service providers, virtual asset service providers, will be able to still provide services in those countries on the basis of the old regulations. However, they will have the time to adjust to the new regulations. So it would be good for such entities to basically seek advice, as Tomasz said, from advisors, from lawyers, to try sometimes to get the knowledge from different, influencers as yourself, Adrian, because this is like also very valuable. And so on. They can try to get acquainted with the regulations themselves, because it's pretty good that they will also know the regulation, how it sounds, how it functions, and so on. So it would be very good. And actually, it depends. It depends on the jurisdiction, because some of the jurisdictions will have shorter grandfathering period. Some of the jurisdictions will have longer grandfathering period. Some of the jurisdictions will actually have none, probably. So it would be quite challenging. And also it's worth to underline that basically the biggest challenge would be that the European Security and Market authorities came up with the statement that if actually one country will not apply the grandfathering period, all the grandfathering period in this country will end, the VASP, so this CASP or CASP, let's say, as a service provider from the other country that still is under this grandfathering period regime in the state, will not be able to basically provide services to the state in which the grandfathering period came to an end or was not applicable to. So the differences still might occur in this time. However, what I would like to underline also personally is that, of course, it is a new field, and it's even for lawyers, it is something new. We have to think and interpret it in our own way. However, if we are doing everything we can, so you as a project founder or as a customer or regular user and so on, you're doing everything you can on this moment in a good faith, with a goodwill and so on, and you're trying to be as transparent and as legally compliant as you can, then it's like showing the regulator or anybody that could actually have some objectives to you, that actually you are conducting everything in a good faith, right? So this is like the occurrence of this factor, that you'll be treated, let's say, probably in a different, lighter way than if you're doing basically nothing and you don't care about what is changing. So this is a good thing to remember, that we shall always try to act in a good faith and try to do everything that we can at this moment.
Got it. And how about the DEXs? Could countries enforce regulations to ban derivatives trading on DEXs?
Yeah, so I may tackle this one. So DEXs are quite an well, to give you a
I think we lost Tomasz for a moment. Alexandra, would you like to take it over?
I think Tomasz is trying to say something, because I'm hearing some noises. So maybe we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we mentioned DeFi and everything, went gray zone, let's say. Anyway, MiCA states that DeFi is excluded from its regulation. It is obviously under certain conditions, but it's a basic point that DeFi is excluded. So decentralized services, including decentralized exchanges. So simply regulations of MiCA wouldn't apply. But when it's another question, kind of how the EU states can enforce the regulations on people, entities outside of Europe. So obviously, you may think of the US right now, because when some shady entity provides services to US persons, as we all know, their officials may be captured by FBI or whatever. They may be taken into custody and brought to the US. I don't believe this will happen in Europe when MiCA starts to apply. However, what European states may do is, for example, geo-blocking the domains under which the services that are not compliant with MiCA are provided to EU persons. And what else they may do? They may blacklist certain projects and their websites, issue warnings to the residents of the countries not to use them, and so on. So these are some kind of restrictions or tools that may be used by the local regulators. So I believe it is the best for everyone that considers providing services to EU people to have MiCA.
All right. All right, thank you. And we got space for one or two brief questions right now, so let's try to keep it brief. Miguel Sanchez is asking, MiCA regulations cannot be applied outside of the EU. Just to know outside the, which is a thesis. Curious if it's right or wrong. What do you think of the lack of jurisdiction in the crypto space? Any thoughts?
So basically, I think this is one of our favorite topics here, because it's related somehow with this reverse solicitation rule, basically. So it's something similar that MiCA brings. It's something that is also included in the traditional financial regulations. So basically, this, let's say, mystery definition of reverse solicitation is that basically, if you are outside of Europe and you're not compliant with European regulations, you cannot basically provide direct services, or you cannot directly approach EU customers. So it is very, very important, because if you're not compliant and if you're outside of EU, then the penalties and the regulation is still applicable to you. So it's not like basically the competition of the competence of EU judges, but the law itself. So it's somehow like similar to the GDPR, which is also applicable. If you are breaking it, you can be punished with and basically authorities may approach you. So it's the same here. If you will be breaking the law in this regard, you may be punished even if you're from outside of Europe. So authorities may basically approach you, charge you, and give you a penalty if you are actively doing this. So this is like a very important thing to underline, that basically this is the reason for breaking the law. However, this reverse solicitation rules is about that if you are this offshore or outside of European entity and you're not compliant with MiCA, however, you're not directly approaching EU customers, and the customer basically found your project or anything by himself without your direct approach, without your marketing and so on, then if you're providing such services to such customer, even if you're not fully MiCA compliant and you're not European entity, then you will not be punished probably as an entity, because you are not directly approaching the client itself and the client found you by himself. So this is like the exemption that is very important to have in mind. However, it might be very tricky in practice to basically, prove that somebody approached you and found you yourself, because this is like, a very tricky process that might be.
Thank you so much for that answer. And that actually takes me to the wrap, right? Because it's been an excellent 45-minute session already, filled with knowledge to an extent that there's been an overload of the knowledge that is breaking the internet, which is I think, the positive side. Extend my special thanks to our incredible speakers for today, for Alexandra Jegilska and for Tomasz Wiącek for joining us, from the 3dots law firm. And for everybody who is interested to learn more about you, about your services, where do they go? Where should they search on the internet?
Actually, we have our website, but I don't know if it's live because actually we're in the middle of moving to our new office. So basically our servers are being removed from one place to the other. However, maybe we can share some email addresses or like anything like that. We're also on Telegram, so maybe we can connect there, because this is like, I think, more approachable for when it comes to the workspace users. However, thank you for the great questions. Adrian, thank you for being the greatest host ever and for the nicest words that you can say it about anybody. Thank you, guys, that you had the time to spend with lawyers, because I know that this is not the easiest time to spend and to have. So basically, what I would like to tell you is that don't be afraid of the regulations. Try to befriend them, try to understand them, and seek professional knowledge when you feel that you should have to reach for one. So yeah, don't be afraid. We'll survive that and everything will be fine, probably.
Do not fear, do not fear, do not be afraid. Actually, the best time is now. That's our saying, that's our motto, that's our slogan, that's the theme, that the best time is now. The best time, actually, perhaps to speak with the right lawyers is now. So I kindly encourage everybody to get in touch with Alexandra and with Tomasz and with 3dots Law Firm. And at the same time, I want to give a proper shout out and an incredible thanks to our today's sponsors for the entire of the Congress 2024 with DYDX, Bybit, Cointel, Dragon's Land. And do not forget, for everybody who's watching and viewing, that to take an opportunity to basically scan the QR code to join our VIP Discord for free. There's not a single piece of charge. All the incredible stuff they're gonna get, and wealth of knowledge. Basically just letting you guys stay on top of the curve on the investing side, on the trading side. In terms of the education, what you can learn, right, about the finance, what you can learn about the blockchain. For everybody, you're gonna find a piece of interest there, because it all starts with the education, and education is very, very important. And at the same time, we're giving away 3 special premium membership pieces, basically to 3 lucky winners. So just all you have to do is go scan the QR code, and you're gonna be basically right there. For everybody, thank you so much. I've been your host, Adrian Zdunczyk, CMT Charter Market Edition, and I'll see you on the next session. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.